Scoring a band 9 in IELTS reading is not that difficult, but you have to consider a few things for you to achieve a high score in IELTS reading. In this video, we will talk about a few tips and tricks that can help you to achieve a high score in IELTS reading or band 9. My first tip for achieving a high score in IELTS reading is to understand the test format. It is very important for you to understand how many passages there are and how much time you have for solving the questions, which is very important because time management is of vital importance in IELTS reading. If you cannot manage your time, you will not be able to achieve a high score. In IELTS reading, we have 3 passages, we have 60 minutes, and we have 40 questions to answer. So for each passage, you will have 20 minutes. For passage number 1 and 2, you will have 13 questions each. And for the last passage, you will have 14 questions. You also have to get yourself familiar with the question types because we have many question types in IELTS reading and you have to practice each one of them to be able to score high and to be able to manage your time properly. My second tip for achieving a high score or band 9 in IELTS reading is to improve your reading speed. Just like I said, managing your time is of vital importance in IELTS reading, and if you cannot manage your time, even if you have good English, if your level of English is good, still you will not be able to achieve a high score. That's why improving your reading speed is of vital importance. And for managing your time properly, it's very important for you to read fast. 2 skills are very important when you're going for your IELTS reading, which is called skimming and scanning. Skimming is reading for general idea, to get the general idea of the passage and to locate the information properly. And scanning is looking for specific information, for example, names, locations, numbers, and so on. Also, to become a fast reader, you have to understand the difference between function words and content words. Content words are words like verbs, nouns, adjectives, and adverbs. These are the words that contain the meaning of a sentence. And we have function words. They don't have a specific meaning, but they are there in a sentence for grammatical purposes. So, if you want to become a fast reader, of course, you have to focus on the content words. That's one of the main ways that you can become a fast reader. When you're reading a sentence, you just have to point out the function words and you have to figure out the content words and understand the meaning of the content words, and you will be able to understand the whole meaning. Because the function words are just there for grammatical purposes. So if you can skip them and just go straight away to the content words, you will be able to understand the whole meaning. It is also important for me to mention the example of function words. Function words are words like prepositions, conjunctions, articles, pronouns, and so on. Words that don't have a specific meaning but are there in a sentence for grammatical purposes. For example, if I say, I can't call you yet, but I will call you tomorrow. In this sentence, can't, call, yet are content words. And all the other words are function words because they are just there for grammatical purposes. They don't have a specific meaning. And in a sentence, if we just focus on the content words, you will be able to extract the meaning of a sentence. And that's how you become a fast reader and you can manage your time properly in IELTS reading. My third tip is to build your vocabulary, because without the right vocabulary and without knowing the right words, you will never be able to achieve a high score. Even if you understand the tips and tricks and all the other things that are important for IELTS reading, but if you don't have a wide vocabulary, then you will not be able to achieve a high score. And in IELTS reading, you will encounter most of the time academic words. And that's why you have to expose yourself to content such as newspapers, magazines, books, and so on to be able to build your vocabulary. In my case, when I was preparing for my IELTS test, I used to learn 20 new words per day. I used to write them down in a notebook, write their part of speech, for example, if they're a verb or adjective or adverb, and then I used to write their meaning in English and also in my native language, and then I used to write a few examples, 1 or 2 or 3 examples for each word, and that's how I used to memorize new words and understand their contextual meaning. My fourth tip for achieving a high score in IELTS reading is to always follow official material. If you just go to Google and search IELTS, you will encounter a lot of material, but most of them are not from official websites or official contributors of the IELTS test, which are Cambridge, IDP, British Council. These are the sites, websites and resources that you have to use, because these are the official resources that are there for the IELTS test. My fifth tip for achieving a high score in IELTS reading is to develop a good reading strategy or an effective reading strategy. So in my case, first, when I look at the passage, I just look at the title and I just read maybe 1 or 2 lines from each paragraph. And then I straight away go to the questions and I read the questions and I see what kind of information is required. Then I come back to the passage and look for that specific information in the passage. Another thing that you always have to remember is to read the instructions carefully. When you're reading the questions, on top of each question, there will be instructions. So you have to read the instruction and you have to understand whether it's a multiple choice question, fill in the blanks. If it's fill in the blanks, how many words and numbers you can write. So reading the instructions is very, very important for you to understand what kind of information is required for you to answer the questions. Also, identifying the keywords is very effective strategy. You have to identify the keywords and you have to underline them, all right? Underlining the keywords is one way to manage your time, because when you go to the questions, you read the questions and you come back and you just look at those keywords and information around it, and you will be able to find most of the answers there. All right, my next tip is that you have to practice different question types. Just like I said, that in IELTS reading we have multiple question types. We have true, false, or not given questions, yes, no, not given questions, matching questions. We have sentence completions, note completion, form completion, all these different question types, and you have to practice each one of them to get familiar with each one of these question types and the different approach that you have to take up for answering each of these questions. For example, in the case of true, false, or not given questions, you have to see what kind of information is stated, what kind of information is implied, and what kind of information is not mentioned in the passage. My seventh tip for achieving a high score in IELTS reading is probably the most important skill in IELTS reading is for you to understand inference and develop the ability to see inference. So inference is basically conveying some information in an implicit way, all right, or in an indirect way. For example, if somebody asks me, do you want to go to the party? I will not say directly, no, I will not go to the party. For example, if I don't want to go to the party, I will not say, no, I don't want to go to the party, because first of all, it's impolite and I will sound rude if I do that. So I will say, today I have a headache. So I'm not saying that I will not go directly, but indirectly, I'm saying that I don't want to go to this party because I have a headache. So that's what you mean by inference. In the passage, you will also see, in the IELTS reading, you will also see this, where they will give you information and then there will be a question asking about that information, but that information will not be given directly to you or explicitly. So the information will be implicit and you have to infer the information from the sentence. That's what basically inference means. My last tip for achieving a high score in IELTS reading is to always review and reflect. This is very important. Most of the time, students do a practice and then they just move on and go to the next material. All the time when you're practicing for the IELTS reading, you have to practice a test or you have to take a practice test, and then after the practice test you have to see why you made mistakes. For example, if you made mistakes, why you made those mistakes, and you always have to review, analyze and assess yourself to be able to improve yourself. That's it for this video. See you in the next one.